And welcome to Ask the Experts here on News Talk 1290 CJBK on this is Saturday. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to our next guest, we are going to find out possibly a whole bunch of new information. I know I am, and I've been very much looking forward to having Phil Holst on the program. He is a member of the board of directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada, where he also chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. We'll find out what that's all about here in just a moment. But first, we want to welcome Phil to the program. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Good to talk to you, Ryan.
Yeah, it's great to have you here on the program. And I have so many things. My tiny little brain is swirling so quickly here right now, Phil. So bear with me as I fire away with a whole bunch of questions. But
Sure.
First and foremost, I want to find out, too, your involvement, how you got involved, what type of person it takes to get involved with Ducks Unlimited Canada. But first off, I don't think there's too many people out there that are listening right now on their radio, whether at home or in their car or wherever they may happen to be, maybe out for a hike, that have not heard of Ducks Unlimited, but maybe they don't know exactly what it is and what you guys do. Can you give us the thumbnail sketch there, Phil, and tell us what Ducks Unlimited is all about?
Certainly, Ryan. I can do that very well. I mean, Ducks Unlimited is essentially a conservation organization. And initially, we started back in the late 1930s to get wetlands back on the land in the Dust Bowl of the prairies. And the idea was to get water back on the landscape. But over the decades, we've kind of graduated into now we create wetlands certainly for wildlife habitat and waterfowl, et cetera. But we're designing them more along the line of, in some cases, natural infrastructure to help reduce flooding. And the larger component is that we're trying to clean up water as it moves across the landscape. So as water's coming off of, say, somebody's farmland or an industrial site or a subdivision, and the water flows into a created wetland, that's a great way to slow the flow of water down so it doesn't move through the system quite so quickly. And it contributes to less flooding, as I said earlier, but it also cleans up the water considerably. So we're a conservation organization that's trying to educate the public about the value of water features on the landscape to clean up water and to build up the water table, and at the same time create wildlife habitat and natural areas for people.
You guys do such great work, I've got to say, Phil, and if it weren't for people like you and your organization, who knows what would become of the land out there in a lot of areas, and we maybe do take for granted as a society the beautiful, especially in this part of the world, my goodness, Southwestern Ontario, we have such beautiful landscape and just, I mean, we do sometimes take it for granted, and so it's so good that your organization is out there doing great work. And what drew you to Ducks Unlimited Canada? I'm picturing somebody who's outdoorsy, who wants to make a difference, who, appreciates the environment. What was it for you, Phil?
All of those things, plus the fact that over the years, I've developed these skills about people, working with people in different groups, and having a strong belief in renaturalizing areas that have been disturbed. And I felt like with Ducks Unlimited, I could play that role with their staff and through the board and talking to landowners. And a good example of this is that you'd mentioned earlier about most people would know about Ducks Unlimited, but apparently there's like 40% of Canadians who don't know who Ducks Unlimited is, but would support such an organization and wetland restoration and all of the habitat creation that goes along with wetland restoration if they knew who we were. And that's generally the population somewhere, as I understand it, in the mid-20s to the mid-40s. They're busy paying off mortgages, raising children, taking their kids to soccer, et cetera. They don't really have a lot of extra time, but they'd like to support something environmental that they could actually make together on a large number of people basis, a large contribution to restoring a lot of natural area.
Well, then let me ask you the obvious question, Phil. And Phil Holst is with us here on Ask the Experts. He is a member of the board of directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada, where he also chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. You can visit the website, too, a great informative website, ducks.ca. With that large segment of the population out there that do support Ducks Unlimited Canada without maybe knowing exactly all there is that goes about to keep Ducks Unlimited going. How can that part of the populace support Ducks Unlimited, even if they don't have much time on their hands, Phil?
Well, essentially contacting us through our website, just through ducks.ca, and contributing yearly to a membership and continuing that for an extended number of years. And then as the numbers grow, there's that much more financial contribution to helping pay for a lot of this wetland restoration work, which, by the way, gets heavily leveraged because we are really good at Ducks Unlimited at taking somebody's donation and then leveraging it 1, 2, 3, or sometimes even more times than that with other organizations and with the government and industry and special interest groups who are wanting to make quite an improvement on some area of habitat that includes wetlands. So that's the simplest way to do it. It's so simple nowadays. On a phone, you can be connected to just about anything, can't you, Ryan?
You betcha. And you know what, too, Phil? What a great idea, too, just as you're talking about a membership. I mean, that'd be a great gift for somebody as well. And even for the younger folk, I mean, get them a gift, a membership for Ducks Unlimited Canada. That would get their sort of juices flowing and maybe get them involved, because we always hear, kids are locked up inside. They're playing their video games. This is a great thing to do for a young person in your life.
It is, and quite a number of our projects are geared towards public access as well. These wetland areas, we're kind of doing more of the work around urban centers where there's great opportunity to capture some of the water instead of having, along with the stormwater management pond systems. If natural wetlands were also a part of the landscape around an urban area, you could sponge up a considerable amount of runoff that, as you can well imagine, coming off pavement and roofs and such, the water flows much more quickly to the rivers and streams in the area. So we're building more wetlands where people actually see them and are a part of them or drive past them. And of course, traditionally, we've done an extraordinary number of wetland restorations right across the country. We're even involved in the boreal forest. And a lot of our work is in the prairies, of course, but we've done a lot in British Columbia, the Maritimes, Ontario, Quebec. Our wetland restorations change from different parts of the country to be more site appropriate. But the really fascinating thing about this, Ryan, is that more and more people are taking an interest in how our environment is managed and redeveloped and put in a position where we can actually have our environment working with us, more correctly, us working with our environment.
Absolutely. And not to go too far down this road, Phil, and if you can comment, that's great. If not, no worries. But are developers sort of getting the idea, too, that they play a part in this topic?
They do. It's incredible. In fact, right after this call, I'm heading to a town called New Hamburg, where a developer has donated a considerable amount of money to create a wetland restoration site at the edge of a development. And it will include trails and pollinative plantings and reforestation, tall stock tree planting. The idea being take this area adjacent to a town that drains about 260 acres of urban area and put some of this water through a natural system before the water flow from, say, a 1 or 2 inch rainfall enters the adjacent river. And this developer is putting up his own money, right? And the township of Wilmette, in this case, they've become a tremendous partner, but just a great example of working with developers, municipalities, private individuals who want to do their part, hiring local contractors to do the work, and creating a wetland system that actually becomes a bit of an educational component to it with regards to how this wetland is put together. So yeah, developers are becoming a wonderful partner.
That's amazing, and that is so good. And taking it upon themselves, like you say, in this situation, and putting up their own money. So that says a lot, and hopefully that is a trend that we see continuing and increasing over the coming years.
Yes, I think it will be, actually. It seems to be one person does it, and then the other person realizes that here's an opportunity that I've never thought about before.
Right.
Why would I even think about it? So it's like leading by example.
Amazing. Phil Holst is with us here on Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290 CJBK, a man who leads by example when it comes to preserving the wetlands in our area and beyond. He is a member of the board of directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada, where he also chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. We'll find out about that committee here in just a moment. We do have to break, and I kid you not, Phil, but I also will be going through the town of New Hamburg later on this afternoon. So I'll wave if I see you, okay?
Great.
Excellent. Phil Holst here on News Talk 1290 CJBK on Ask the Experts, and we'll be back with more on News Talk 1290 right after these. And welcome back to Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290 CJBK with our special guest today, Phil Holst. He is a member of the board of directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada. He also chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. You can visit the website ducks.ca. Lots of great information there. And Ducks Unlimited Canada, conserving Canada's wetlands. And if I missed it, Phil, how long have you been with Ducks Unlimited Canada?
I've been on the board for 7 years, but I've been a volunteer for about 16.
Oh, wow. Gee
Yes.
whiz. And does it entail a lot of work, or sort of is it up to you how much time you want to put into being with Ducks Unlimited?
Well, it's a bit of both. As obviously, on the board, you're required to attend all the meetings, and these meetings happen across the country. One note I should make about being on the board with Ducks Unlimited: you are considered a volunteer. So it attracts people who are really motivated towards this kind of restoration work and working with something that you really believe in. So, of course, we do not get paid to be a director, and we cover all our own costs to attend meetings. And in a way, it's like if you put your own money into something that you believe in, it seems to be attracting other people who feel this would be an organization well worth contributing to.
Very noble, that's for sure. Phil Holst here on Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290 CJBK. And what is your role when it comes to the board of directors? What does that job entail, Phil?
Essentially, running the Conservation Committee, our board is divided into about 6 or 7 different committees, and the conservation is what we're all about at Ducks Unlimited. So I get to work with our staff and all the other directors, and of course the directors that are in my committee, but we reach out to all the different provinces and various politicians and business leaders, and we come up with projects that either we've thought of or have been presented to us, and then through the Conservation Committee, we help give direction to our staff to actually implement the work.
And would you be working with people right across the country, Phil, in your role?
Oh, definitely, and that's kind of the fascinating thing about it. It puts you in touch with quite a diverse group of people working and living in very different parts of our country, because, as you know, that Canada is so large and things are different in the Maritimes than they are in Saskatchewan. And the way people think in British Columbia is fairly reflective of their own individuality out there as compared to, say, maybe in a more highly urbanized part of the country. And so you meet people of all walks of life and different ways of thinking. And it gives you a great opportunity to work around and with people's ideas and concepts for the conservation of landscape, be it wetlands, trees, pollinators, the whole gamut of conservation.
And working together with such like-minded people must be so very satisfying for you.
Well, it is, and it's growing. One of the examples of such a thing is the insurance companies of Canada are taking an interest in partnering perhaps with us in a way of aligning with wetland restorations as a way to perhaps reduce the amount of, you could say, basements getting flooded. In other words, the idea of a landscape that's much more absorbent,
right,
and therefore less quick flooding water flowing across the landscape. So I think we appeal to a broad segment of society.
I don't know if you can paint this picture or not, Phil, but I cringe to think what we would be looking at in some areas if Ducks Unlimited Canada did not exist. But what would some of the where you occupy now, some of the wetlands, what would have happened to them if Ducks Unlimited Canada wasn't there to do the great work that you do, if you know what I mean? Or would it be in subdivisions, communities, farmland? I mean, if you didn't do, and your colleagues and the other volunteers didn't do what you do, I can't imagine what would happen to some of the land.
Great question, because it brings up a very valid point. We've considered that approximately 70 or 75% of wetlands across Canada have been removed from the landscape over the years, be it for development, farming, or whatever reasons. And in some places, as high as 90% of these natural infrastructures have been removed or drained out or covered over. So my thought has always been, if Ducks Unlimited had not been involved, and then all the conservation authorities here in Ontario and different organizations across the country, I wonder if that figure would be much higher. Would the 75% removal of wetlands be closer to 80 or 85%? And would in some places 90% be 95? So I often think we've probably reduced the amount of loss just by the work that we do and the education that we are providing to basic landowners and showing them the importance of maintaining this type of infrastructure on their land, or if they have to remove something, to replace it somewhere else. So I think we've made a big dent in the amount of wetlands that are on the landscape. In other words, there are more remaining because of groups like Ducks Unlimited and ourselves, and probably more coming onto the landscape in the future. Our end desire is to have a net loss of wetlands, where we actually maybe start to reintroduce a percentage higher than what we had in the beginning. So, like in the beginning of development, I mean. So,
it Phil, I'm embarrassed kind of to ask you this question, because maybe I should know, but does Ducks Unlimited own some of the land that we're talking about, or not?
Yeah, we do buy some land, like on Lake St. Clair. There's a number of historic marshes that we've purchased, because that's one of the best ways to protect or maintain this type of landscape. And we own land at different parts of the country, okay. But we're not really geared towards buying up landscape. We're more involved in working with private and municipal landowners to retain or improve the existing wetlands that they have on their properties, or recreate something that had been removed in the past. That's our biggest amount of work. That's where we really specialize in wetland restoration.
Awesome. And is it a little bit of both in terms of private property owners and, say, municipalities approaching Ducks Unlimited Canada, or is it Ducks Unlimited Canada reaching out to these property owners?
It's really both, and a lot of times it's the landowner who says, "I've been wondering what to do with this piece of land," and they contact us. That's again what happens. But we're finding more and more, just by being in association with different groups, the topic comes up and a great project happens. And in fact, I'm right now near a wetland called Brick Ponds Wetlands in the City of Woodstock. And it's an 80-acre wetland, and it's owned by the City of Woodstock, and it's one of Canada's largest urban wetlands. I don't know who has the largest urban wetland. I would love to figure that one out, but at any rate, we approached the City of Woodstock, and they were very receptive to the idea. So it really does go both ways, and neighbors talk to neighbors, and they suggest, why don't you contact Ducks Unlimited? And so we get a lot of calls from people who've been referred to us. And
would it be a lot of farm property owners as well out there also that would contact you, Phil?
Oh, yes. We work very closely with the agricultural part of Canada, and more farmers are saying, I've got a piece of land that I never really get a good crop on. Maybe I spend a lot of money trying to drain it over the years, but maybe once in a while I get a bit of a crop. So they say, well, let's do a little bit a different approach here. And so we come up at Ducks Unlimited with a plan, a design, and we will work with them to get all the permits that are needed if it's required, and change the use of land from subsistence farmland or marginal farmland to actually functioning wetland areas that often get trees and wildlife shrubs planted around them as well. And therefore the farm becomes more resilient in the sense that more of the runoff or more of the rainfall and snowmelt actually gets into the farmland water table. Doesn't create a drainage problem for growing crops, but it does help keep the the water table higher, and the farmland able to work or produce much better through some of the frequent droughts we seem to be getting over the last decade or so.
Phil Holst here on Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290 CJBK. He is a member of the Board of Directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada, where he also chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. You can get more information, a great website, some great stories on their website, ducks.ca. Phil, we have to pause here. Are you okay if just a couple more questions for you? Are you okay? Can you hang in? Yeah, okay.
I'd love to.
I knew you, and you know what? I love the enthusiasm. It's coming right through the phone. That is just amazing. The passion is so obvious when we talk to you here on Ask the Experts, so that's great. So hang tight. We will be back here on News Talk 1290 CJBK with more right after these. Welcome back to Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290 CJBK. Just a couple of minutes left with our guest, Phil Holst, who is a member of the Board of Directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada. He chairs the Conservation Programs Committee. You can get more information, ducks.ca. Are there any areas here in say, London, obviously, that's where we're broadcasting from today, Phil, any wetlands you can tell us about that people can maybe visit?
Well, there's a number of them around, like in the agricultural area, like the Holst Marsh, and Lake St. Clair. And as far as smaller wetlands, in and amongst the City of London, there are some, but not all of them are that easily accessible. But you'll see some of them as you travel, say, east of London along the 401 corridor, going through Woodstock. We have have a project that has quite a large conservation sign on it. The whole idea of a wetland that takes water from urban areas and the 401 and treats the water and sends it back down into the system through a wetland that cleans up the water, cools it back down, and the whole watershed is better off for it. So some of these wetlands are not that easy to find, but we are finding that there are more spots where people are willing to put in public access.
Excellent. And the Holst Marsh, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, up around the Clinton area, Phil?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's accessible to the public, correct?
It is. There's a section there, and going on the internet, you'd be able to find the parking lot and the public access area quite nicely.
And some of the lands that you're talking about, Phil, would they all have signage or no? Is that up to the landowner themselves?
Yeah, that's the great thing about us at Ducks Unlimited. We don't go to a landowner and tell them what they can or cannot do with their property. So we don't tell them they have to have a sign. They can do what they want with their property. The only thing we do is ask them to sign a conservation agreement that provides some security to us that they're going to keep the project, which pretty much everybody keeps. So landowners, most projects won't have signage on it, but there are some more public ones that signage is becoming a bigger thing. In fact, a number of meetings I've had recently are with organizations that want the public to come and look at their project. So,
got it. Phil Holst here on Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290. CJBK, member of the Board of Directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada. He's also the chair of the Conservation Programs Committee. Go to the website ducks.ca. Phil, time goes by quick here on the program, and certainly with you, just as I mentioned earlier before the break, just great enthusiasm when it comes to what you do and your great organization, and truly have about, call it a half a minute. I'm going to put it to you. What have we left out? What do you want? What's the message to wrap things up here today on Ask the Experts?
That wetlands have become very valuable habitat in people's minds in today's world, and more so. I remember as a kid back in the 60s, wetlands were considered wastelands, but not today anymore. It's really quite remarkable when I meet a landowner who says that I would like to have somebody help me restore this wet area on my property. And there's a considerable interest in that sort of thing. So I think the future of wetlands in Canada and the U.S. and Mexico and probably globally is becoming far more well-recognized and much more supported. So it's a good news story, really.
Awesome. What a great way to wrap up the program with our guest today, Phil Holst on News Talk 1290 CJBK Ask the Experts Again. Phil Holst is a member of the board of directors for Ducks Unlimited Canada, and he's the chair of the Conservation Programs Committee. Go to the website ducks.ca, and Ducks Unlimited Canada, conserving Canada's wetlands. Phil, what a great pleasure it's been to have you on the program, and I hope we talk again somewhere down the road, okay?
Ryan, thanks for having me on. It was wonderful talking to you, too.
Thank you, my friend. All the best into the future. And yes, we'll wave at each other going through New Hamburg later on this afternoon.
Yes, we will.
Okay, my friend. Have yourself a great day.
You too. Bye, Ryan.
Thank you. Phil Holst here on News Talk 1290 CJBK on Ask the Experts from Ducks Unlimited Canada. Ducks.ca. Back with more after these.